So, this might be one of the most bizarre things that has ever happened to me, and that's a pretty high bar to catapult across. But it's probably about 3 weeks ago. My family and I we went to the park down the street from our house. It was evening, so it was dusk. It was probably 6:30. It was getting dark outside, and when we got to the park, we wanted to play hide and seek. So we get to the park, we play hide and seek. I've got two girls, one is 4, and the other is 2. And that's kind of our game we play when we get to the park. We play hide and seek, and it was my turn to hide. So the girls were counting, and I was hiding. And one of my favorite places to hide on the park is the slide. And there's this, at this particular park we go to, there's this enclosed slide. It's probably about a story and a half tall, so it's a pretty decent slide. Story and a half tall, enclosed, which means it's like a tube, and it's a corkscrew slide. And what I'll do is while the girls are counting, I'll go down the slide, stop myself in the slide, and then wait for the girls to stop counting and then come find me. And as they get to the top of the slide, because I'm yelling their name, they'll start going down the slide. I'll pop out the bottom and go hide somewhere else. Now, don't tell them, but that's kind of my little secret weapon when it comes to hide and go seek at the park. So what I did this particular evening, it's dusk, it's dark in the slide, and they're counting. I slide down the slide and stop about halfway, just like I normally do. I kid you not. On this particular day, though, I stop and I start to smell something. And I'm just like that smells like poop. I was thinking like some dog went to the bathroom, you like outside the slide and all this stuff. I was just like, what is that smell? Like I couldn't figure out, I knew what the smell was. It smelled like poop. But I was like, what? Why is that smell so strong? And then what happened, since, I'm in this dark slide and it's dark outside, my eyes initially couldn't see anything. But as my eyes began to adjust to being inside the slide and being in that dark space, I look behind me on the slide and I see what I was smelling. And it was smeared. And what had smeared it was the back of my shirt. So when I went down the slide, I assumed some kid went to the bathroom, fell out his diaper. I know some of you are like, I can't believe I watched this. It was nasty to have been there to experience it. But I assumed that it smeared on my back as I went over it, and that's what I was smelling. And I pop out the bottom of the slide, and I'm just like, time out, girls. We can't keep this going. Time out, time out, time out. And I go over to Colleen, my wife, and I go, is there something on the back of my shirt? She goes, yeah, there's some brown stuff on the back here. And I was just like, I'm done. I'm just going to go home. I'm done. So I went home, and I changed, and I ran back, and we played, and I took a really, really long shower that night because that is just nasty. Now, some of you are like, okay, why are you telling me this story? Well, I tell you this story because I think there's a spiritual principle illustrated in the story. And some of you are like, really? You're going to go from that story to a spiritual principle? Absolutely. Why not? I want to read you a passage of Scripture. This is found in John chapter 1. And what John is doing is he's introducing Jesus. And so what happens is he's talking about Jesus, and he says in verse 4 of John 1, he says, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. If you skip down to verse 9, it says, the true light, which gives light or enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. So Jesus is described as the light coming into the world, which is described as darkness. So the thing about darkness in that story is that I couldn't see where I was going. I couldn't see what was in front of me. And I ran over a pile of poop because I could not see where I was going. And so when you're walking in darkness, when you're moving around in darkness, trying to find your way in darkness, you don't see where you're going. You don't know what you're about to run into. You don't know what you're about to hit. And the same is true with what the Bible is describing the world. Apart from Christ, this is a strong statement, but I believe it's true. Apart from Christ, we all walk in darkness. We don't really know what's right. We don't really know what's wrong. We're informed by culture. We're informed by our hearts. We're informed by our own minds, all of which have a proven track record of being wrong. How many times has culture led us astray? How many times have you led yourself astray? There's a pastor that I love to listen to, and one of the things he says is this. He says, no one has lied to you more than you, right? So you're walking and you're trusting your own instinct and your own gut, but yet you know you have a proven track record of lying to you all the time. And so what happens is we trust these sources that are unreliable, and then we just make a mess of ourselves. We make a mess of our lives, and we don't even realize it till after it happens. Why? Because we're walking in darkness, and we don't see the poop that we've run over until after we ran it over. That's the story of so many of our lives. I got so many. I could spend hours giving you examples in my own life of things like that happening. But Jesus is the light. I'm going to read verse 9 again because it says this: the true light which gives light to everyone was coming into the world. The true light which enlightens everyone. See, Jesus is the light that shines in the world that makes everything make sense. Like he clarifies all that is confusing because of the darkness in this world. Jesus is the one we cling to show us what is right, what is wrong, what is true, and what is false. Jesus never deceives us. He never leads us astray. And because Jesus, if you trust in him, if you follow in him, because he lights your path, you can always see the mess that you're about to step in before you step in it, rather than looking at it in retrospect after you step in it. And so what I'm hoping kind of with this, I slid over poop slide story and me talking about light and darkness, is that you would see that Jesus is like the piece to the puzzle that makes everything else make sense. You can look in our world and look at this contentious season in our country, especially considering we're like 14 days away from the election, and just see a lot of confusion, a lot of opinions, a lot of anger. But the thing that I want us to see is that it's truly Jesus that enlightens us, that shows us what's right, that shows us what's wrong. And today, if you're a Christian, I pray you would cling to him. Cling to that. Trust in him. Trust that he's lighting your path. Trust that he is the true light, shining light in the darkness. And even though the world at times can seem very dark, it just means the light shines all the more brighter. And if you're watching this and you're not a Christian, and I say it all the time, I hope that people would watch these Facebook Live posts or they would listen to these devotionals not being Christians, because I think that's a great way to have really awesome conversations with people who don't necessarily see the same way we do. If you're watching this and you're not a Christian, I would ask you the question, like, what are you trusting in to show you what is truly right and truly wrong? I have a suspicion you're trusting in yourself. You're trusting in culture. You're trusting in someone else who's not yourself, maybe some leader, political figure, or celebrity, or somebody who has some clout in our culture. But the truth is, if you look at all of those sources, whether it be you, whether it be culture, whether it be someone else besides you other than Jesus, there is a proven track record that they don't know everything or they don't get everything right. And so my hope and my prayer is that you would trust in the light that enlightens everyone, as John 1:9 says. So, with all that being said, I hope everyone out there has a fantastic Tuesday. Watch out for slides with poop on them, and I'll see you later.